Hello, welcome to Framework. I am Al Schwartz. With me, as usual, is John Bernard.
Yep, it's me.
We are returning to the Bioware Omnibus today to talk about Jade Empire, their sort of forgotten, stepchild of a RPG. This is the one of these games that I had never played before prior to this, counting for the first time. You played this when it first came out?
Yes, I played it when it first came out, way back in, what is it?
2006?
That's what I wanted to say, 06, 05, something like that, yeah. Wow.
It was an enormous failure financially or commercially, and part of that I think is because it came out at the awkward. It's like one of the last titles of a particular generation of Xbox before the new one came out.
Never good. Yeah.
So yeah, that's never a good spot to be in. And because of that, this was sort of BioWare's passion project they've been working on for a while. Prior to this, they had been working in Dungeons and Dragons or Star Wars IP, and this was them creating their own game world, their own fantasy setting. And yeah, unfortunately for them, it did not hit in the same way that their big IP projects did.
Absolutely. And that's unfortunate, right? This is a pretty good game.
Yeah, it's pretpretty good.
Yeah,
and it's an interesting game world.
Yes.
I think you're revisiting it even a couple years later. I mean, the one thing is, it's awkward. You can't praise this game world too effusively, but because you can always get slapped down with but it was 12 white guys doing this ancient Chinese folklore riff with no Asian input.
But I mean, Castlevania is a Japanese version of European folklore. That's sort of a video game tradition. And I don't know, you can point to something like Avatar: The Last Airbender as another version of something like that. I think it's done.
Is that, I don't know who made that.
White guys.
Okay.
Well, American guys. I don't really know, but not yeah, American guys.
No, I mean, and I look at this like I am too ignorant, I guess, to know if there are ways in which this riff on ancient Chinese mythology and history is insulting to actual Chinese history in a way that like Dragon Age riffing on Western European history is not insulting to them. Then I don't know how to parse that, because I somebody else would have to explain that to me. To my eyes, actually, it was interesting. This drew something to my attention that I had not thought too much about, which is, I think of video gaming as being very Asian influenced, but it's really just Japanese influenced.
Yeah.
Like how little Chinese there was in my sort of gaming perceptions.
You're right. I don't have a real perspective on this that makes sense. If somebody wants to tell me that Jade Empire is actually quite racist, I'll be like, maybe you're right. It did not strike me as such playing it. It was kind of quite the opposite. And I think having it set in such a highly fictionalized world helps. Like, we're not saying China at all here, not remotely. This is the Jade Empire. And,
right.
There's certainly taking cues from Chinese folklore and Shaw Brothers movies and stuff like that, but it's not, we're doing fake stuff here for sure.
Yeah. And that's such a big well to draw from. Chinese history is one of the biggest histories in the in the world, and the biggest culture in the world for thousands of years, and yet it felt so novel as a setting, just because, like I said, most of the game developers are based in Japan or the United States. But I did like the game world, but for novelty value, nothing else. I don't know. It kind of drew my attention to how much like having the established Star Wars universe helped me with immersion in the earlier games, because it took me I felt like it took longer for me to get my bearings here.
It took a while. The roughest part of this game is the first world, or first 5 to 6 hours of the game, where you're just sort of getting used to it. It doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel as consequential. I was reminded frequently of like Kung Fu Panda, or kind of a cartoon version of Chinese folklore. It becomes, that doesn't never really go away. That is sort of the vibe they're going for. DuckTales with blood, but it does kind of still. It gets deeper.
Yeah, it's at its most, I don't know, arch when you're at the martial arts school,
Yeah.
just talking about, martial arts teachings, and devoting your life to doing the best, like, slappy chops possible, as the highest philosophical aspiration a human can have. And as you get out into the world and encounter the actual like conflict of the game, it gets a little more, a touch more mature, or
a noticeable
grounded to people's physical well-being, at least. I don't know.
It steps it up, for sure. And initially, like, when we started this, I was kind of like, I remembered the game vaguely, and I was like, yeah, I remember enjoying that. I don't know if it's going to hold up. And those early parts of the game, I was like, nah, this isn't doing it for me. And I was kind of ready to write this off as just sort of an old thing. And it turned me around, though. The more I played, the more I got into it. The more I figured it out, basically, and really enjoyed what they were doing by the second movement of the game, I would say. I was there with it.
I'd say it took me until getting to the Imperial City where I was started to feel it. Like, even through the first town after you leave the school.
Tin's Landing, yes.
Yeah, that one felt like a bit of a slog to me. But before we talk a little more about the mechanics here. The other big innovation here that Bioware is starting to do is they moved away from the turn-based combat of the earlier games and are doing, it's action, it's beat 'em up combat. There's no pausing. I mean, you can pause the game, but you can't like pause and give orders or whatever. You can just go to the menu screen, and you have to actually slap and chop people in real time. Now, it's an ambitious system, one that I don't think is ultimately that successful.
Oh,
but
okay.
I kind of began to enjoy it more as time went on. But so the conceit, I guess, is that as you level up here, you develop different martial arts styles, and at each level up, you get a few points to distribute and to develop which style you want. And the styles are kind of broken down to, you got your martial styles, which is your fists and kicks that do basic damage, and some of those are more like more than do damage, they do effects. They debuff the enemies when you hit them. And you have to use fists to damage ghosts. Nothing else will damage them.
Yeah.
And then you got weapon styles, which are the more fun ones, I think. You can choose between a swords or a staff, and you need those to damage golems later in the game. They're the only way to damage them, so you can't ignore it completely. And then you have magic styles, which lets you throw fireballs or icicles at people and freeze them or light them on fire. And that's okay for ranged combat. I would throw a couple of those out at the beginning of a fight, but never really use them much.
Magic seemed not useful in this. I guess this is a good time to mention how I've played this game.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I do not have an Xbox. I'm a PlayStation guy, so I do not have access to Jade Empire. You were telling me you can just download this on an Xbox. It's just there.
Yeah, I just bought it for $7 or something.
I could have I could have got a PC, got onto Steam. My old PC died though, so I didn't have immediate access to that. So I was kind of out of options here that weren't going to cost me money, except you can download Jade Empire as an app on a phone or an iPad. And so I thought, I'll commit to that this time. I will do that. And
that seems like such a painful, horrible way to play this. To the point I can't believe they actually bothered to port it that way.
Well, I'm going to shock you here.
It's not
Al.
even a popular title.
Yeah, it actually is a terrible way to play this game. It is virtually unplayable unless you have. Well, I looked into this, and what you would have to do is buy an attachment to your phone that is basically a controller, so it functions like a Nintendo Switch, and you just have two little arms on the side of your controller that are a buttons and controls. And that's about $100. And I was like,
that's a lot to get apart.
So I tried to muscle through it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it work. Surely it's they made it so it could be played. I'm gonna do it. And the way you attack in the game is you just swipe towards what you want to do, who you want to hit, and the way you swipe functions as, like the differentiating between what style of attack you're using. Absolutely awful. Absolute chaos. Absolute trash.
Yeah.
Just the worst thing possible.
It's not silky smooth with a controller either. Is the thing.
Well,
and there's, for example, okay. Part of the concept here is that you got basically a light attack and a heavy attack.
Right.
That light attack is what you do 90% of the time, or 95% of the time if you're me. And heavy attack takes a little second to charge up, but it can knock through an opponent that's blocking. And you can block too. And so it is designed to be sort of a rock, paper, scissors game where your light attack goes fast and does a little bit of damage. Block beats light attack, and heavy attack beats block. But a light attack will beat a heavy attack because it will get in there faster and disrupt it.
Rock, paper, scissors type thing.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. I think I played through this game 1.5 times. I did a good playthrough, and then I did about half playthrough trying to do the path of the closed fist, which we'll get to, but didn't. Made it halfway through or so. And I think in the second playthrough, I blocked a couple of times, just because there's a certain type of ghost that has sort of unblockable heat-seeking attack that you can't dodge, an undodgeable one. Other than that, I just rolled and flipped around like a maniac through every encounter and jumped in and slapped him a couple times and rolled back out. And ultimately, dodging is so much more wildly efficacious than blocking that I never did blocking.
Yeah. Seemed to be the case. Moving around was its own difficulty on an iPhone too. I have nothing to say about the mechanics other than what I played was horrible. I did ultimately give up on that and just watch it on YouTube. That's how I experienced the second half of this game. So I can't tell you about the mechanics, but they looked really cool to me. It seemed like they were really neat. I was very excited to be like, well, I want to try the stone golem form or whatever, all the different.
I forgot to mention that there is a whole other form. There's a transformation. You can turn into a demon or a golem and like a shape-shifting thing to become a big monster with heavier attacks for a short amount of time.
Seems cool.
I never did that. once in my playthroughs.
I would like to do a transformation playthrough of this. It'd be probably really frustrating, but it would be interesting.
Well, the thing is that when you do that, it like drains your magic points.
Yeah, it's probably not
really fast. It felt like so. I felt like it was too unreliable. So I just focused on the thing is you can all right. So the cool thing about this is you get all these different styles. I mean, there's probably 15 of them throughout the game that you're going to collect. You're only going to use 5, but you can map them to the different D-pad directions. So in the middle of a fight, with one press of a button, you can switch between styles and whip out your sword or throw a fireball.
That's cool.
Or as what I ended up developing is how I handled every single fight was starting with the thing that goes in and paralyzes the enemy with a karate chop. Hit them with that once, flip over to my fast chop sake style and whack and a couple times, and then flip back to the paralyzing thing. And that was so effective that I didn't really need to mess with anything outside of those two styles. But I would still use my weapon occasionally just because it was fun, I guess.
Yeah, the axes seemed really cool. The dual wield axes you get near the end, so like Black Whirlwind style. Yeah,
I never got to use those.
Oh.
I chose poorly in my first my full complete playthrough. I chose the staff, which was a mistake. It was good for distance. It had good reach.
Yeah, I mean, it's never a particularly difficult game. I got the sense, and when you're not struggling against an iPhone controls, it seems like it's pretty straightforward.
There were 2 or 3 boss fights that gave me trouble.
Right.
For one of them for just like purely mechanical reasons, that there is an autosave like between two. There's sort of like a 2-stage boss fight. It saves halfway through, but there's also no like thing to heal before the second one. So I just went. My save had me going into the second one with like no health and no energy.
That's some classic aughts gaming right there. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're still not on the mechanics here. Okay. So you can kind of spam your style of choice, and there is supposed to be a mechanic wherein there's something called harmonic combos that I heard a lot about from like the flavor text and the descriptions of the martial things, that somehow you start a string of attacks with one style and switch over to another and complete it with a different style, and it does something special, and I think gives you like guarantees you getting a power up from that enemy or something. I don't know. I don't think I ever pulled off one of these. If I did, then it didn't like announce it in any way that I recognized. There was no real like tutorial that forced me to learn the mechanic for how to pull this off, the way that at the beginning it teaches you how to block and how to throw a fireball and how to do these different basic moves. But this thing, there seemed to be a lot of investment in the combat design around this concept that I just went through the whole game without ever touching.
Another like sort of thing from this era of video games is elaborate mechanics that end up not being used ever because there's just a more expeditious way to get through it.
That's this to a T.
There is, there's all sorts of things you can do, but you're not going to because there's one way that is quite clearly the best way to go. In this case, probably 2 or 3 ways that are the best way to go, and then another, dozen or so options that just sit there unused. Which, I don't know. If this were a later BioWare title, I would have probably tried, in my 4th or 5th playthrough. I was like, okay, I'm doing Transformation Monk this time, I'm going to make that work for me. But they were not quite at a point in action RPGs where they made that worth doing. This is very formative, this game. This feels like getting ready to create IP, getting ready for action RPGs, getting ready for the great things they're going to do later. A lot of this game feels like that.
Yeah, ultimately, I think they are going to integrate this with the Mass Effect series and make the Mass Effect into a more effective shooter game than this is as a beat-em-up game. However, I did learn to stop worrying and sort of embrace this combat by just forgetting about everything the system promises to do, and just being like, okay, this is like a beat-em-up with a little bit of a unique flavor and being able to switch up the styles on the fly. And yeah, I'm only going to switch between 2 or 3, but if it's thinking that it's a more advanced version of River City Ransom.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. The style swapping, but yeah, it is. It seemed fun when I could see of it.
I wanted it to be. I wanted to feel like I was a real freaking master that could chain together a half dozen different like things in one fight by the end of this game, and I never really felt like I developed it that way. Right. But I got very effective at jumping behind somebody, paralyzing them, giving a flurry of punches, and jumping to a next person and paralyzing them and giving them a flurry of punches. So it's maybe half effective at what it's trying to do, but it's still not painful. It's kind of fun to play. One thing I think they do get right mechanically is just the level up system or pacing.
Yeah,
where that's a difficult thing to sort of balance because you can't be leveling up constantly. It needs to feel like an event that's like worth celebrating. But you go too far in the other direction, you get the Baldur's Gate games, which that's Dungeons and Dragons problem, but where you're going 3 hours of game time between level ups, and when you do get a level in the Dungeons and Dragons game, it's in a huge leap up and a huge deal. But there's so few and far between that it becomes a little painful. And here you get levels at a pretty decent clip, and they start you out, you get like 3 points of the first level and 4 of the second, and so you're getting more points. And I was always happy to have a few more points to pump up something.
It did seem like you were a little limited in what you could pump points into. There were so many options that if you did it wrong, you were just like, uh-oh, you're fucked. I mean, I guess you don't had to need it all, but
you kind of had to pick your 4 and max them out. I mean, there was a heavy incentive to do that. You weren't going to get anywhere by being a jack of all trades here and having a few points in all 15 of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that's sort of a BioWare thing. It sort of rewards dedication to, a good or evil alignment or a specific kind of gaming approach. I mean, even Mass Effects are like that. If you want to be a sniper, you should be a sniper. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they got a little.
Oh, they're better at it.
I think they refined that system as that series went on, and I mean, I think the great successes of the Mass Effect system is how the soldier class, which would be the most basic, you don't get the special magic abilities, whatever, seems like it would be the most boring white bread version is actually quite effective and fun to play because of the weapon variety.
That's true.
But that's for a different day.
Yeah.
And this one...
Well, you want that variety here. You want to be able to be like, oh, I'm going to switch to the the blunderbuss or whatever that you get at one point. All that shit. You want to be able to do all that, but you're kind of just like, well, I don't have any points in that one, so what's even the point of going there?
Exactly.
Yep.
You also want to become like a super master of your dedicated style, so you don't want to max them out too early. But yeah, it's a difficult needle to thread. I don't know that they did precisely. The one thing, like I said, that the level up is good at the skill level. For stats, there is really only three stats for your character here. Like character creation is very limited here.
Yeah.
You don't really you choose a template for it. You want the fast guy, the strong guy, or the balanced guy, and those are your choices at the outside of the game. But you only have three stats. There's, each one of them focuses on one of the three, but you get 3 points, I think, per level up. You could just put one into each every time and remain kind of balanced, or you can, when I did one playthrough where I was focusing on weapons, and the thing about weapons is they eat up your focus stat every time you swing them. So eventually you could run out of that in a long fight. And so I was pumping that up to make sure that never happened. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the other thing. You have 3 bars of energy in this game. You got your health, you've got your magic points, where it's called chi, which you can also use to heal at any time without really like slowing yourself down. You don't have to like stop to heal.
That seems like the way to use chi.
It's always that's part of why I didn't like the transformation styles or anything, because it felt too risky to be using that up, or even like the fireball throwing is using that up on anything other than healing felt like I was exposing myself, because there are no. We'll get to that in a second, actually, because there's in addition to the magic points, there's also like your focus, which is like a stamina bar, I guess.
Yeah, like it had a Dark Souls kind of quality to it. If you run out of it, you're like, oh shit, I can't use my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you drain it by using weapons, and you can also turn it on. You can switch modes, like bullet time mode, and then that drains it really fast. But it slows down time, and you can run up on people and get them. And I probably used that very sparingly too, because it just ate through it so fast, and then you feel a little helpless when you don't have any.
The final boss uses it on you. That's a bad.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
But I could also paralyze him and stop him from doing that. So that didn't. The final boss was not the hardest boss by any means.
Jacked up pretty good by the time you got to him, I guess.
Maxed out. The janky thing about this is that you have sort of like 2 non-health energy bars that are eaten up by using different abilities, and it's not super intuitive to me which one is going to draw from which ability is going to draw from which bar.
Yeah.
Eventually, I figured it out. But I wonder if there's a better way of doing that.
I think this is mechanically a pretty interesting game. I mean, it sounds like it didn't totally land all the things. I mean, there's nits to pick, but this is they're taking some swings, and I think it mostly works, and it's interesting what they're doing here. For the first action game they've made, Bioware, and for the time it comes out, I think this is not just solid, but innovative in a lot of ways. Without playing it in its ideal mode, I guess.
It is, and it functions at its basic level. It's the more ambitious stuff that doesn't really pan out, I don't think. And then the place where I think it really falls down mechanically, though, is that there is no inventory system to speak of, which
that's true.
Felt at first like really encouraging. I was like, oh, this is actually a nice, fun, streamlined thing for a more action-oriented game. You don't have armor, you don't. Like I said, you have weapon styles, but those are skills that you pump into, and you can replace the sword, maybe 2 times during the game. You upgrade it to a new one, but it just slots into the old thing. It's not like you have to carry things around. You don't collect gear in this. You have
no health potions.
Yeah,
that's
no, and no consumables. Yeah, that's the thing. So your only gear is these jewels that you put into an amulet that you carry around. Yeah. You start out, you can do 3, but later on you upgrade it, you can get up to 5 on there. And so that there is no economy in this game, which I didn't realize was such a big deal until I was playing through this in an RPG, because in a Baldur's Gate or a Mass Effect 1, especially, for example, I tend to think of inventory in RPGs as being mainly like a hassle. And the way you screw that up is by having too much gear to haul around and manage, and that becomes a pain. But this made me realize that it's so... You need that, because when there's a total lack of it, it kind of like has all these knock-on effects of how you interact with the whole rest of the game.
Yes.
That you collect money during the game, but it feels pointless because there's really nothing to spend it on. Like
more gems. Yeah.
Yeah. You can buy passive like buffs from a few. There's a handful of vendors in the game, not really many at all, and you can buy passives. I would do that whenever I could because there was nothing else to spend money on. I can't buy health potions. You can't buy weapons or armor, really. I mean, I guess you can buy weapons like twice in the game. But it's not like you have things to choose from. You could buy one weapon. There's an upgrade. It's a clear upgrade. There's nothing to like think about or balance. You cannot, you don't equip your party members, and you don't customize them in any way, which I found actually had a surprising amount of like, one of the problems with this game, I think, is that I don't develop as close of a relationship with the party members as in other Bioware games. Part of that, I think, is the not being able to customize them in any way like that.
Interesting. It's actually something that hadn't even occurred to me, but you're right. They just kind of exist. They don't seem particularly useful in combat either, other than just
they're completely interchangeable.
Just to distract. That's all they can really do.
They're a warm body to draw a little bit of aggro from the enemies.
I mean, I think you could probably say, I don't know if this is uncharitable, but this is probably the weakest roster of like side characters and support teams
of companions.
Yeah. Which
I don't know. It's because the character designs are that bad, but you don't. Like I said, you don't customize them at all, and you can only bring one of them out with you at a time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like you interact with them as much.
Right.
You can still you have a camp that you go back to, and you can interact with them there.
Talk to them, all that stuff, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another thing missing here is a fast travel back to that camp.
Yeah.
And without that, I don't go back to visit it that much.
Right. Kind of between acts, you'll be there. But it's... And there's not much... I mean, lore. Basically getting lore and character stories from those guys is the only reason to talk to them. And that's kind of okay. That's one of the main things in any Bioware game that you're after. But like... I don't know. There's no standout personality. There's a few good ones probably, but there's no there's no HK-47 there. It's
Well, there is one in that like personality mold, but I'll get to that.
Yeah, they have the molds of the personalities.
Yeah, but he's not as good. Yeah, I could take your point. One last thought on that, the sort of the lack of economy in the game is I felt like in addition to meaning that I had less of a relationship with my companions, it also felt like there was less incentive to explore because there is no loot to like lust after. You get plenty of gems, and sometimes they're slightly better than the ones you have, but most of the time they're worse.
Right.
And I wasn't ever like, ooh, yay, this one's great. And there's no reason to hoard money. It felt like so.
I mean,
I think they overdid it in streamlining it, that part of it.
I do like that this is a lot tighter a game than other BioWares. I mean, I think 30 hours is probably the max amount of time you could play with this game. It seems like it's shorter than the others. There's less to do. Maybe it's just all that stuff getting cut out takes a big hit on the time, but it feels like a much faster experience, a little bit more straight up kind of action game. Besides having all the BioWare conversations that you're liable to have.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
it felt shorter. I couldn't say for sure because the game clock would keep running when I went back to my Xbox menu. I would always just come. I'd come back to it, and just 2 hours had passed, even though I hadn't done anything. Right. So I don't know what my actual play time would have been. But anyway, that's who cares?
Right.
We should talk about the plot such as it is.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's not bad.
It's good.
So you You play the last spirit monk, which is, say, you're an orphan raised at a kung fu academy in the rural regions of the Jade Empire, and you were raised by your master, Master Lee, who's older kung fu Mr. Miyagi type. And you have a sort of another companion that you were raised with named Dawnstar, who is a young lady martial artist who has a connection to the afterlife and can kind of talk to ghosts, see dead people type of thing. Except everybody can also see dead people in this, because the main conflict of the game sort of is that their ghosts are roaming the land and getting angry and attacking people constantly. And something has disrupted the great wheel of reincarnation. It is not letting these ghosts go through their judgment in the afterlife and be reincarnated. And that's the core mystery you're sort of like unraveling throughout the game.
Yeah. There's much talk of the celestial bureaucracy and something's gone wrong, with the way they file things in heaven, I guess.
You can suss out the basics of that pretty early in the game.
Yeah.
That what happened was there was a long drought 20 years ago. And the empire was withering up and dying, and it was very bad. And the emperor, along with his brothers, decided to solve this problem by attacking the temple of the water dragon, the great water dragon that is in charge of watering the land and also in charge of shepherding souls to the great wheel of reincarnation or whatever. And they basically attack this temple, kill all the spirit monks except for baby you, the player, who escapes, and then they kill the water dragon and sort of seize her power to return water to the land, but in the process of doing that, disrupt the cycle of life and reincarnation. So now we have the ghost problem. And as a spirit monk with your special amulet, you are the only person who can beat up ghosts. Well, that's not entirely true. Other people can.
Yeah, they can. You're better at it. I do like the conceit in this game. I mean, I guess it's in many games. It's like, well, there's ghosts. So, you're going to have to beat the shit out of them if you want to get through.
Yeah. And you can't kill them, but if you beat them up, they disperse for a while. They go away for a while, but they'll reform, I guess. That's going to be an issue for us when we try and figure out how to adapt this. In game mechanics, that's very straightforward, because a ghost enemy has this. I mean, maybe they have different resistances or weaknesses, but their hitbox is the same as any others. And you into a particular, I can just punch them, and that's fine. Your peaceful school and little village there are attacked by pirates who are led by the mysterious and nefarious Lotus assassins, and they destroy your school, kill everybody but you and your pal Dawnstar, and kidnap Master Lee and cart him off towards the Imperial City for reasons unknown. And so you and Dawnstar head out to try and get him back, basically.
Yeah, a quest, a hero's quest. Yeah.
Yes. One of the first other person you meet is Sagacious Zoo, a slightly older, very weathered martial artist. Turns out it was a Lotus assassin himself in his past and left there under, violent and mysterious circumstances.
Did not like him, by the way. Did not care for Sagacious Zoo.
Nah, he's not the most lovable.
Yeah, stick
really.
up the ass. A lot of attitude. Not cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's sort of like very upfront with, I have a secret, and I'm not telling you it because I don't trust you.
Yeah, a lot of lectures from Sagacious Zoo. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't realize on my second playthrough, part of the thing here is he's, despite having left the Lotus Assassins as a conscientious objector, he is a follower of the way of the closed fist, which is to say the dark side path in this game. The morality system here is the same as the light side, dark side in Knights of the Old Republic. They just call it the way of the open palm or the way of the closed fist.
Yeah, they sure do.
And so actually he's a little friendlier if you're being more of a bastard to people, which I didn't.
Oh, interesting.
I did not get from his characterization my whole first playthrough. I thought, you're the guy with a conscience, but
he's
still kind of like, but you should.
Plenty of scolding. I thought, oh well. I got to say, here's the thing. I this time through, what choices I did make were good. The video playthrough I watched, all good choices. Good choices, for the most part. First time I played this in the aughts, this was my first attempt to go full evil with one of these. On my first playthrough, I did the every evil, selfish, bad choice. And it was pretty grueling, to be honest. It was
hard, man. I tried.
Not much fun.
I tried to do it.
Yeah.
I played through half the game, and at the halfway point, my meter was like very slightly on the side of the closed fist because even though I was like consciously trying to pick the more evil, bastardy way, so much of it. This is the problem I think you get with a lot of morality systems in video games, and when Bioware is bad, it's doing this, which is there's a lot of moral choices here, which are not really moral choices, I guess, but it's just rather than being ruthless or like selfish or kind of evil, I'm just being an asshole to people to no particular end, and particularly to my companions. It's like I guess to be a puller of the closed fist, I have to just be constantly telling my partners to fuck themselves at every turn, and I was like, I just don't want to do that. Like,
no, and they will leave. Right?
Like, it feels like it would be socially awkward to do this.
I don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, there is a lot of it's silly and it makes you feel bad at the same time. Was my memory, my big memory, and a lot of interactions you have are just you'll say like the evil thing, and then the NPC you're talking to is like, oh no, you've ruined me, I'm destroyed forever, and you did it for no reason. Why? And that just repeats over and over.
I kind of felt the opposite. That's the way I felt in KOTOR a lot. In this one, I was surprised. A lot of times I would say that, yeah, why don't you go fuck yourself anyway, Johnson? People wouldn't really, even your companions would be like, they'd be like, okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and blah, 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 and just like kind of go on with their day. I'm like, well, why am I even bothering telling people? I feel like I'm a jerk and ineffectual, too. Like, they're not even... But some of them are like really cartoonishly evil. Like, that is the thing. It is, are you going to give away your money to the orphanage, or are you going to eat their puppy in front of them?
Yeah, it's that sort of shit. And
there's no middle ground.
I mean, you take it to the bitter end, and I mean, I would not say it's worth it in any way with this game. Like, this is kind of like, well, it's kind of like playing D&D pure evil. It just kind of breaks the game in some ways. And I mean, as a narrative, it just, unlike KOTOR, which I very much enjoyed, the evil path. Nah, not in this case. This is maybe the greatest example of how fruitless that is. And I don't know if that's the point they're making, but it's just not a fun way to play the game. And I'm open to those sort of things, but not in this case.
Well, so let's keep rolling here. After the big attack, and you get your first 3 people, you steal. Okay, there's also a steampunk element to this setting.
Oh yeah,
there are flying machines.
Right.
And you get one of those and fly it to a near. Yeah. There's mini games in this. I expect mini games in a Bioware game. I didn't really expect to be playing Galaga.
Yeah.
For as much of this game as I was. But you can kind of just skip those parts, which
they're not hard.
I think we should in this case. So you go to the first like nearby town, which is bigger than your little village, but it's called Tien's Landing, and that's your first big quest hub. Spoiler alert, out of a total of basically 2 quest hubs. That was surprising to me. But I was like, okay, this I kind of understand. This is your terrace from Knights of the Old Republic or whatever, and there's basically 3 major quest lines to go through here to gather up the pieces you need to get your flyer fixed and ready to go all the way to the Imperial City. And you have to go you have to close a dam that's been opened, is that right? No, you have to open a dam that's been closed. And
or you can break it if you're evil.
You don't actually have to close it. You're right. You have to go through like most of that quest line, but you can just not finish it and just leave the town high and dry, literally. And one of the other quest lines is you have to cure a sort of haunted forest, which turns out to mean you have to resolve a battle between a forest guardian deity that's a magic fox and a cannibal demon.
This is cool. I love this part. This is where the mythology and the Chinese folklore all really comes to the fore, and you're just like, okay, it's not just some ghosts. We're really going deep on the supernatural elements of this game, enormously.
Yes, you go to the personal heaven dimension of this fox spirit.
It's pretty cool.
At one point. Yeah, it's kind of cool. That's okay. Each one of these quest lines, you encounter a new companion. So in the Haunted Forest one, you meet Black Whirlwind, who is, I guess, the HK-47 of this. In that he's in the personality type of the let's kill everybody. Is their response to everything and at all times.
Sort of comedic drunk. Looks like a Hagrid, basically.
Yeah, and voiced by the same guy who does Rex in the Mass Effect games. So
I didn't know that. That's great.
I'm pretty sure it sounds just like him.
It does. Yeah. Okay.
And in Dragon Age, this is Oghren in the first one, or Iron Bull in the third one, and Mass Effect, it's kind of Rex, it's kind of Zaid, but it's a staple. I thought, he's at once kind of the most fun companion, and also I felt like it's a bit overdone. That just every one of his stories is, so I fought these people, and then I killed 50 people, so they're all dead.
It is shallow. All these characters are a bit more shallow than usual for the reasons we were talking about. I think he is the standout here, though. I think he's probably the most fun character you got. It does have kind of a, like I was saying, the DuckTales quality, but all of them do kind of have, they behave a little like Saturday morning cartoon characters, but he's also often talking about all the murder he's committed, so it's fun too.
Yeah.
It's, like if Launchpad McQuack just spent 5 minutes every episode talking about all the people he's murdered. It's fun for a while, at least.
For a little while. I've had, it's straight incredulity at a certain point. I'm just like, going by what you're telling me, you kill approximately 25 people per day every day of your life. Like you would depopulating this entire empire.
That's what the Spirit Monk does. It's...
Well, he beats up ghosts.
Yeah, a lot of them are ghosts.
They can't die. No, you kill a lot of people in this game, too. You also encounter Henpecked Ho, who is at this sort of a hostage of the cannibal demons you have to fight. I guess you don't have to fight. You can join up with the cannibal demons. That's the level of the evil choice, though.
And these are like little gremlin creatures. They're little... Little weird, mostly head with arms and legs. Little, 3 feet tall, running around and swarming you. Beasts.
Yeah, they're little meatballs with horrible faces and fangs on them.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And you can join them. It's great.
In my second playthrough, I realized, you can kill the fox spirit and the cannibal demons, and just fight them all out.
No, you want to hang with the cannibal demons, clearly, though.
That was one of the only times when I was like, okay, here's an evil, closed fist choice that doesn't feel gratuitously, pointlessly, just assholey for the sake of asshole. I was like, I can make a sort of principled decision that, no, I don't like any of you celestial fuckers messing around with the human realm. Get out of our face.
I'm more about the cannibal demons. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the exception though to the rule. So Ho is this guy. He's a former master of the drunken master fighting style, which he will teach you, which is a fun novelty thing. If he is your companion, he doesn't fight himself, but he just throws you bottles of wine that are like power-ups that let you do the drunken master style. I just ultimately found that to be not very useful. You don't improve the drunken master style with your skill points like you do all the other ones. So it's just a very limited move set. It wasn't fun to play it, but it was a fun concept, but not fun to actually execute. I actually ended up, I really liked Henpecked Ho as a companion character just because he is a personality type that does not fit one of the Bioware molds. I was like, this is a kind of companion I have not had in my party a half dozen other times in my RPG career. His whole thing is that he has a almost like vaudevillian take my wife please thing going on. That he has a horrible shrew of a wife that's never seen, that he lives in constant terror of, and I kind of expected as we got further and further into the game, for there to be eventually revealed that she's not that bad, and that he actually does, like, he complains constantly about her, but I actually really loves her or something. No, it turns out he actually has tried to poison her. Tried to kill her on multiple occasions and can't pull it off, and is just resigned to, yep, well, I belong to her, and
it's
I will never be free.
Like slapstick, like, and he ends up poisoning himself, kind of thing on accident. You know, a lot of, you know, it's goofy shenanigans all the time with him. One of the more successful characters for sure.
It's very goofy, but he's one of the more entertaining ones to actually hear from.
But useless as a companion. Useless.
Absolutely, absolutely useless.
Yeah.
Black Whirlwind, I suppose, is the most effective at actual. He probably kills the most enemies, but that's not really what you rely on your companions for. One thing, I think we kind of mentioned this earlier, but you only take one with you at a time. That's another issue. So you don't get any party interaction when you're out doing the game, when you're doing the questing. It's all back at the camp, basically. I mean, you get a chime in on occasion from your party, your one party member when you're doing a quest marker, but it's very limited, and you don't get them interacting with each other, which is, I think, where you get the special sauce of the Bioware experience.
Yeah, that is a thing that you really notice in its absence. You know, you really want to hear, like, Rex and Liara talk to each other. Liana. You want them, you know, kind of interacting, and just having the one guy there who doesn't say much to you. You know, maybe every now and then there'll be like a little insert in a cutscene. Otherwise, you know, and since they're not particularly useful or important in the combat, a lot of the times it's kind of like they're not even there. So, yeah, I mean and that's the thing too. Like, you know, the Mass Effect games, I guess, will be variable in how useful the companion characters are. As I recall, Mass Effect 1, your team members are not very useful. In Dragon Age, they're essential. And it's interesting to me how you build up affection for the characters, even in the non-character interaction part of it, by just using them and having them be you. But in this case, again, you set them to either attack or support, and you don't control anything they do whatsoever. It's on attack, then they'll just basically distract a couple of enemies while you deal with the others. And if you support, they each have their own new thing, where maybe they'll make you do extra damage with your weapons, or you regenerate your health, or you regenerate your magic points. But ultimately, they don't make a big difference. Nope.
Unless you get caught in a bad autosave halfway through a boss fight that leaves you with no focus, and so you have to get the support character that will recharge your focus for you, or else you have no chance.
Which boss was this? Jesus.
This was the Lady Lotus Assassin in the at the end of the Lotus Assassin base mission.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're still back in Tian's Landing, and during the dam mission, you encounter Wildflower, a little girl that transforms into a big rampaging demon.
Oh yeah, this was cool.
Yeah, that's also a cool one. You'll sort of see that pop up with Justice, I guess, in the Dragon Age Awakenings expansion and Dragon Age 2. They revisit that sort of a similar idea there, but it's very different because it's not a little girl.
Yeah, that's a fun wrinkle to that. This is a character I wish there was more to do with. You know, like all these characters, I kind of wish there was more to do with them, because this is a great concept. I love the basic story they're doing with the little girl and the demons inside her, but you know, ultimately not, you know, a character doesn't affect play much. I mean, it's cool when the demon shows up, but
yeah, it turns out there's two demons inside her. There's like a good guy demon who's been tasked to help you as the last spirit monk, and will follow you, and then an evil, you know, you flip the doll switch to evil, and there's a bad side demon who just wants to. Who will also says, like, I'll help you. I'll serve your whole life. I don't care. I'm immortal, so I'll serve you for 50 years if you want, but let me out of here. And again, it's a thing where even on the dark side playthrough, I had a hard time, like, screwing myself up to choose the evil demon that is saying, yeah, I'm going to kill this girl to take over her body, because there didn't seem to be like a big or any like gameplay advantage to using the evil one over the big one.
No,
there was or the good one.
There's no gameplay advantage to any of the companions at all, really. So yeah,
right. But they didn't even have a different ability.
Yeah.
It's the like support style is the exact same. So it seemed kind of pointless.
It's to rack up evil points. That's the only purpose. Yeah. Like for its own sake, kind of in this game.
Yeah, but trying to role play it, be diegetic, be like, well, you seem like a much less reliable companion, even if I even if I toast to evil, as a principle. I just don't know why I would possibly choose this. But that's another one of the good characters, I think, that
it's cool
because it's not one that pops up in every game.
Yeah.
And yeah, you wish you get more of them. The final quest line there is going to like a pirate base because there's these marauding sky pirates that are swooping down and selling people into slavery. They're led by the father of a rival student that you killed in the opening act of the game.
Yeah, Lucius
randomly
Malfoy.
Voiced by Nathan Fillion.
Is it? That's crazy.
Gao the Lesser is voiced by Nathan Fillion for reasons that I could not. I was stunned when you fight him once at the school in sort of a sparring match, and then you fight him again and just kill him. And I'm like, wait, did I kill Nathan Fillion 40 minutes into this game? Why was he here? Like,
there's some
answers.
Surprise voice actors that show up in the Imperial City that made my jaw drop. We'll get to them.
Yeah, there's definitely okay. There's two of them that I can think of. Yeah, okay, but we're almost there. So you go through this thing and you end up killing his father, who's like the crime boss that's in charge of the slavers there.
Gao the Greater.
Yes. And this you pick up Sky, who is a handsome like rogue character. Yeah. Yes, with nothing going on. Just really weird introduction to him. So you're infiltrating the slaver base, and Sky is doing the same thing at the same time, independently of you. But for some reason, when you offer to like join up with him to like let's do this together, he's like, nah, I'm going to go my own way, you go your own way, and we'll meet at the top or whatever. So then you go up to the top and fight Gao the Greater, the father of Nathan Fillion, and kill him. And then after you kill him, Sky pops in and is like, oh, you got him. Good. I've been after this guy for years. His slavers kidnapped my daughter and killed her years ago, and I've been on a quest of revenge ever since. So now he joins you, and as soon as he joins you, like, his whole arc is complete and has been completed by your character and not him.
Yeah.
Which is just a very strange choice, I felt.
The dead weight, the purest of dead weight in this. Like, I mean, I got Sagacious Sue over him in my rankings. This is a weak character. I mean, I don't know.
He's the bottom of the pack.
Yeah, it's never used for the most part. So couldn't tell you much about this guy.
I guess if you are a straight female, he's your only like romance option.
Yeah.
Or if you're a gay male.
Do they have gay romance in this?
Yeah, if you're cool. Sky will go both ways and Silk Fox will go both ways.
Well, that's pretty cool. Okay. Well,
there's the romance in the third act is gonna get crazy. But anyway, okay. So now we collected all our pieces. We got basically. Oh, sorry. The other companion-ish person you pick up there is Kang the Mad, who is an inventor that created the airships and bombs. Basically, he's not somebody you take with you. He doesn't fight with you, but he is part of your crew. He's your pilot of your airship now.
He has a plot line,
and he is he's got a little plot line. He's a fun character in that he's eccentric. He's sort of a Doc Brown type, I guess.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
with more of a propensity to blow things up unintentionally.
You can kind of trace the lineage here to Morden Solus. It's it's the crazy inventor. It's he's got a lot to say, a lot of opinions. He's fun. He's one of the good ones. But yeah, he's functionally not a character in the game. Well, no, he's a character. He's not a companion. He's just a character that you get to speak to a lot, basically.
He's at your camp, but he's not. You don't take him with you in the field. So that's pretty much everybody. Now we head off to the Imperial City, the capital.
Yeah.
And when we get there, we are greeted by the princess, the daughter of the emperor, and we have encountered her sort of in disguise a couple times earlier in the game, and had a little fight with her.
Yes.
Yes, where she was going in the guise of Silk Fox, which is how she sneaks out of the palace to investigate what's really going on in her realm. And she is concerned because she thinks like her father has sort of retreated from public life or even from interacting with her, and the Lotus Assassins are getting more out of control and more diabolical. And she thinks that their leader is a guy named Death's Hand, who's in like a big scary Darth Vader armor, but more samurai flavored, is sort of becoming the power behind the throne, is manipulating him. And the Lotus Assassins are creating an army of golems that she thinks is sort of behind her father's back, although there's a lot of reason to doubt, that it definitely seems like the twist we're leading up to here is that he is not an innocent party in this, that he's doing all this intentionally, and that's going to be the big conflict with her character.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, she joins you. She's a romance interest. She sort of has aristocrat versus peasant conflicts with Dawnstar that could also have a romantic rivalry element to it. So, not the greatest Bioware character ever, but I like that she introduces some conflict within the party.
Yeah, she's okay. Seems good in a fight. Well, not as good as any of them are, I guess. But,
they're all the same.
And yeah, like it's an archetype, There's Princess Jasmine stuff going on. It's yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's good because it has narrative purpose that is strong. The narrative is probably the strongest part of this game, and she serves that quite
she's
well.
Key to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's pricklier.
Yeah.
She's got opinions.
Yeah.
So, like that.
Haughty.
Yeah. Yes. Now, so now we're in the Imperial City, and there's a few different sort of things to do. There's some busy work. You can do bounty hunter stuff. Your main job is to infiltrate the Lotus Assassins by either you can fight your way through the Imperial Arena, which you kind of need to do anyway, and
huge plotline.
You find out, there's a big plotline there. You find out it's about Black Whirlwind's backstory, that he and his brother were arena fighters, and his brother joined up with the local mafia, and he wouldn't do it, and they ended up fighting, and he killed him. Black Whirlwind killed his brother, I guess, is the thing there. And then, so there's a whole big thing, there's probably, 15 or 20 arena fights you have to go through to complete all of it.
This is a very familiar thing in an RPG. You got to get through the arena fights, You got to,
sure.
And you've ascended to the next tier of arena fighting. Congratulations. You're our silver champion now. Let's see who you'll fight next. I'm right there. I'm sort of unconsciously doing the Brian Doyle Murray voice, which is
yes. So this is our first celebrity. The guy who runs the arena, the promoter, is voiced by Brian Doyle Murray.
I couldn't believe it, man. I was just like, wait, is that fucking Brian? That's definitely Brian Doyle Murray. This, of course, being Bill Murray's brother. He's in Caddyshack, Wayne's World, a bunch of movies, and he has that really distinctive voice. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Noah from Noah's Arcade in Wayne's World. You would recognize this guy for sure, even if you don't. The name Brian Doyle Murray means nothing to you. But he's in a lot of Bill Murray movies. He's wonderful. This is probably the best decision they've made the whole game.
I was very excited, and it makes the arena, which would be probably a bit of a chore, into one of the more fun parts of the game, is that you're constantly interacting with Chinese Brian Doyle Murray.
Yeah, he's not doing a really heavy accent or anything. He's just doing Brian Doyle Murray, but he's got a fun character bit where he
makes up words.
He's over impressed with his own vocabulary and makes up his own slightly more complicated versions of words. So it would be a complicated version of things, but which could be really annoying.
Not when Brian Doyle Murray does it, man.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I like that. I would want to include that character in an adaptation just for that little bit.
Would you have Brian Doyle Murray play him? He's still around.
I think he's still around. Yeah,
I think so. Right.
Okay. But that's the whole thing. I actually the arena is kind of fun. I thought. There are occasionally frustrating fights there because you can get ahead of your skis pretty quickly there because if you go there first, you're not. Yeah. You can get through the bronze division quickly, and then the silver division will be tough. But you actually need to go and do a bunch of other stuff and level up before you can beat the final fights there.
Mm-hmm. It's a very familiar thing. It's in so many games, in almost any RPG. has this quest line. Certainly Dragon Ages have it, and it's because it generally works. It's generally pretty fun.
Yeah, and there's more. There's a more involved plot here with the mafia people that are fixing the fights and running things than in the Knights of the Republic versions of this.
Very much. Those aren't great versions of it, but I do. No. I mean, even beyond the Brian Doyle Murray and the mafia, I like the guy. The sleazebag who sits on top of the arena and is like, my perversions are known to the Emperor. You can't blackmail me, and you got to find a way around that. That's fun.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If so you can fight your way up the arena and impress the soldier as well, the executioners faction of the Lotus Assassins, and that'll get you access to their fortress through that way. Or you can go through I forget what the assassins, the spy version of it, by doing the blackmailing the judge or poisoning him or something. I think there's a couple ways to resolve that. Yes. Doing some, I mean, if you're into the game, you do both, right? Because it doesn't hurt you to have both passcodes or whatever to get in, and you get more experience, more levels out of it, and a little more story.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you're here for. Story. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that it's not required to do, but I think we have to do the detour to the Scholars Garden.
Of course. Yeah.
That's where a lot of the fun stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
And including the funnest thing there is that there is an interloper who has come across the seas, who's shipwrecked. God, what's the name of it? Is Lord Ponce? It's Ponce something von Fottlebottom.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Anyway, he's like a conquistador. He's like a British conquistador type, voiced by John Cleese.
Yeah, man. Wow. I did not expect John Cleese to appear in this game. Tell you that.
No, I don't know how they did that. How did they?
One of the main things I remember from the first time I played this was like, oh yeah, John Cleese is in that, and he's playing a Britishman basically, and it's and it's hilarious. It's very Monty Python. It's one of the standout sequences in the game, and it's just him insulting the backward people of the Jade Empire and declaring himself their superior, and you have to put him in his place.
Yeah, you have to debate him first, and sort of it's almost like a roast battle more than it is it's billed as a philosophical debate, but it's just how do you make fun of him in a way that gets everybody on your side, and then you duel him, and he's got a big blunderbuss gun that is kind of hard, I mean, because it kind of takes you out in one shot more or less. But once you beat him, you can he'll offer you a reward, and you can get a buff to one of your stats, or you can ask for the gun, and he'll hand over the gun, and then you can have one of your weapon styles now is just this gun that you fire once and then stand perfectly still for 5 seconds reloading it. It's not very practical, and yet I ended up using it a lot.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's fun. I think it's probably the most damage dealing thing you can do.
It does a ton of damage. It uses a ton of your stamina though, which so it's part of the reason why it's not very practical. Also because you can't cancel the reloading thing and switch to something else. You have to reload it and then switch to Kung Fu again. But it's a very fun sequence there. I mean, just amazing to get John Cleese coming at you from that angle. You just don't see it coming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they gave him some really good dialogue. It's well written. Like a lot of the stuff in this game, it's extremely well written. And this is kind of the game writing at its best in sort of an inconsequential scene, but just like the pure dialogue that is coming out of Cleese is quite clever and very very wordy. This is them, this is them having a ball. This is everyone had a great idea and executed it really well. One of the high points of the game, for sure.
He's having a really good time.
Oh yeah, he's digging into it. Yeah.
Okay, so now we made our way. Now we're infiltrating the Lotus Assassins base, where as a recruit, and we had to go in there. This is familiar Bioware stuff as well. This is very reminiscent of the Korriban section of Knights of the Old Republic. You're going in there, and again, this is one of those things where it goes a little overboard in terms of everything in the Lotus Assassins is so focused on fucking everybody else over, including the other Lotus Assassins at the first chance, and there's so much backbiting. It's like, how do you guys ever get anything done? I don't quite buy this.
It's a real Sith Academy situation here. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But you go through all that stuff. You've sort of uncovered their plan to build this golem army to replace the human army, and which these automatons will be totally loyal to Death's Hand and not to the Emperor, I guess, is the conceit so far.
Not entirely sure how that works with all the information that we have by the end of the game, but yeah, that's what we're presented with. Mm-hmm.
Well, we're about to uncover that actually the Emperor is totally signed off on all this, and this is his plan. So after we get out of there, okay, so at the end of that, we face off with the sort of second in command of the Lotus Assassins is the lady assassin I was complaining about the boss fight. She's a sort of sorcerer. And you have a fight with her that for me was the hardest one in the game. And then after you beat her, Death's Hand himself shows up. Darth Vader shows up. Sagacious Zoo pops out and is like, I'll hold him off, you run. They have a fight. Sagacious Zoo is killed holding him off while you escape. That he's actually killed, not fake out killed. He's gone for the rest of the game.
Yep.
And from there we fly up to the floating. The Imperial Palace is floating in the air on magic floating rocks. That's a thing too.
That's not unlike the Hallelujah Mountains of Pandora, you might say.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a thing I can't get away. And half the quantum realm, it feels like it's everywhere I go these days. It's just freaking floating rocks. You get a little backstory on the origin of the floating rocks if you talk to somebody in the Scholars Garden that knows about them.
I think I missed that,
which is kind of interesting world building. I don't know if that's ultimately necessary, but whatever. So now, here completes like the open world portion of this game. Now. It doesn't sound like there was much open world here. It's because there isn't. Like it felt structurally like we're going through all the stuff in Tian's Landing and gathering up all the parts for our flyer so that we could open up the world map and fly anywhere we wanted to. The way that you get through a certain section of KOTOR and you get your ship and can fly to whichever planet you want, whatever order you want, or you get the Normandy in Mass Effect and can go to whatever planet you want, whatever order you want to. You open up the map in Dragon Age, and here you do open up the map, and there are 2 locations on it. Yeah. You can go back and forth between Dan's Landing and the capital city, and that's it. So it's very streamlined. And now we've completed Chapter 3 out of 6, I believe. But we've also completed 80% of the game at this point.
Yeah, it's all story from here on out, pretty much exclusively.
Yeah. I mean, Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 are probably 10 to 12 hours a piece or something.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe 8. But Chapter 4, 5, 6 are probably an hour a piece.
Yeah, something like that.
So you go into the Imperial Palace, kind of fight your way to the throne room, confront the Emperor, who is very dastardly about, yes, I stole the Water Dragon's power, and now I am immortal, and I will
David Lopan
rule
stuff.
in perpetuity. Yeah. Yes. And this Silk Fox is hurt by this, but stays on your side against her father. And you fight the Emperor and you kill him, and you free Master Li, Master, who turns around and kills you, and seizes the Emperor's power for himself.
Yeah,
we've known all along, actually, since the beginning of the game, that he is actually the Emperor's brother. He was his top general,
the glorious strategist, Sun Li. Yeah,
Yes, the glorious strategist. The story was that he had defected after they attacked the Water Dragon's temple and absconded with baby player character from there. But it turns out he was his plan all along. It was his idea, and I'm now, because I didn't get to this part of my second playthrough. The details are getting fuzzy.
No, I got it. I just
this is all
got
his.
through this.
Okay.
He took the player character and raised him as his avatar of revenge, sort of a pawn. But he also built in a fatal flaw in his kung fu style that Sun Li would then be able to exploit to kill you. Yeah, and throughout the game, they've been layering this in a little bit. Like you'll talk to a character who's like, "Wow,
on it in the arena.
You were amazing. I thought I saw a flaw there for a second, but I guess not." It's pretty good. Pretty good. as far as twists go.
Yeah, it's not a bad twist.
Interesting.
Oh, and the other thing is that Death's Hand is their other third brother that was supposedly killed at that temple attack, and is now just been sort of bound as a revenant, encased in this suit of armor, kind of like the Mountain in Game of Thrones, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. He seems to, the Mountain seemed to be more into it, I guess.
Yeah. But it turns out he's not really like the Death's Hand is not the mastermind. He's sort of just a tortured automaton himself that has to do the Emperor's bidding. So now you've been killed, and your master has seized the throne of the Empire from his brother that he manipulated you into killing, and is sort of wielding the power of this god. But as we know, you've been killed, but you can't go to the afterlife, or you can't be reincarnated, so you are now a ghost. And chapter 5 is you going around in the ghost world, sort of
fighting other ghosts.
Fighting other ghosts, jumping through some hoops to reclaim your body.
Unlocking the fountains or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And you do this stuff, and now you get to chapter 6, which you reincarnate at the Temple of the Spirit Monks, where this, the Water Dragon Temple originally was.
The City of Dirge.
Your companions, yes, your companions meet up with you there, and it's not really a city; it's a temple. It's deserted, but Master Li has now sent the Imperial Army with their golems and everything here to finish you guys off, and you have to. There's like a siege sequence, I guess. There's only 8 of you guys, but you have to fight off this attacking army. This is also where you get the resolution of the romance arc, and the crazy part. I don't know. Do you know that this is possible?
No, I don't. Underplayed in the. But at this point, I'm fully watching a Let's Play. He just hooked up with Dawnstar, and that was it. That was all.
That's what I did the first time through. I thought about throwing her over, but I ultimately just felt too bad about it.
Yeah, that's a good solid basis for a relationship right there. Pity.
Yeah, indeed. If you are doing the closed fifth path and you're doing romance stuff with both Dawnstar and Silk Fox, they will not like each other for a while, but they'll come around here at the end after you reincarnate and be like, we kind of patched things up while you were dead, and we're not here to try to tie you down. We can kind of do whatever you want. And instead of grabbing one of them and kissing them and fading to black, they're just kind of both standing there. It's an implied menage a trois situation goes on, which is okay, fine, whatever. I'm not here to be prudish about 2006 video game romance standards. I mean, there's something a little weird and gross about video game romances, but being able to be at like checkpointing certain things you have to hit in order to unlock the threesome. But
whatever. I wish more games did that. They kind of cut you off at the legs most of the time, Mass Effect certainly is like, you can try for the threesome, but you will get shot down. Even The Witcher will shoot you down. I wish they gave you that option. See how many hookups you can have at once, how many lovers
Dragon
can you
Age
have at
and
one
Mass
time?
Effect, yeah, I guess Mass Effect kind of makes you cycle through them. You can run through quite a bit in Mass Effect. And Dragon Age tends to have, it's not really, you can't maintain 3-way relationships so in the long term, but there's like, you can go to like the one brothel and arrange it if you want.
Sure.
The strange thing here though, and I didn't get this first time through, well, one, because I just did the straightforward romance, but I also apparently, because you never talk to your companions, I didn't talk to Sagacious Zoo enough, and I didn't uncover the end of his plot line, which is he reveals that he rescued Dawnstar when she was a baby, when he left the assassins, and she is actually the daughter of Master Li, who essentially raised her anyway, but didn't tell her he was his father. But if you run back this family tree, that means that Silk Fox and Dawnstar's fathers are cousins, brothers. Right? They're cousins. Yeah, that's the 3-way that they set up here.
Oh wow, cool.
Which is fucking weird.
Cousins. All right. Is that a thing? Is there a cousin fetish?
There
probably is.
Yeah, I mean, there's an
There's
everything
a sisters
fetish, man,
fetish,
but-
so I mean, I want that, but less weird. I just a step down from sisters. That's what I.
Well, I feel like the sisters thing didn't really invade all the porn tabs until like 2015 or something. So they were still working their way up there. Now, anyway, look, that's a sidebar. I don't think most people go that route anyway. It's just what a weird thing to include in that way. So you get your big action sequence there. You finally actually really underused mechanic here. During this siege thing, you get to control your other companions.
Yeah, that was cool.
Kind of sort of one at a time.
Neat finale.
It's almost like
neat finale overall here. The
Yeah.
way it's structured, the kind of multiple paths. Get a little bit of
also
Phantom
made me
Menace.
think, like, if you're programming in this thing where I can control these other why didn't we do this more during the game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The way like Knights of the Old Republic 2 had several sequences where you sort of break up your companions into different groups and have them doing approaching action sequences from different angles at the same time. Like that was doable, and it's clearly doable here, like with this engine or whatever, and it's confined only to this final sequence, which I found a bit disappointing. But the fight itself is, suitably epic, I suppose.
Bridges blown up and shit, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, you get these, they have siege golems, which are like 30-foot tall, sort of like almost kaiju level, rock men. And you have to blow them up.
I was pretty impressed by the scale of just the level design. The entirety of this this final act is pretty cool. The final chamber. Well, not the final chamber, I guess. The water dragon chamber is what I'm thinking of. That's pretty cool, man. That's a pretty cool room. It just kind of scales up in an appealing way. It feels like the end of a big story, like you want it to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's also a thing here, the dirge fight, where you face off against Death Hand for the last time, and you can sort of like free his spirit, or I think there's a way if you're doing Closed Fist, although I didn't get that far in that playthrough, where you can sort of like possess him yourself, or like force him to join your party.
You sure can.
From there now. Like, he doesn't have anything to say, I don't think.
He doesn't like it.
Yeah.
The rest of the team doesn't like it either. Most of them leave at that point if you do that.
Yeah. And if they don't, then we're going back to the palace to finish off Master Li. During part of this, we go through some of the like dungeons levels and find like the body of the water dragon strung up in the dungeons.
You have to
with its
kill
belly. Yeah, so it turns out the water dragon's not actually dead. It's sort of sitting there with its belly split open, pouring water out of it endlessly. And it's been sort of half alive in torment for these 20 years. And you have to like end that, or you can
steal its power
through yada yada yada, like seize its power for yourself. And that's suitably evil. I'll give it that. But also like that's an evil choice that I'm like, okay, I also see the impetus for doing this evil choice. It's not just telling it to fuck itself for no reason. It's to seize the power of a god for yourself. I'm like, okay, I can see why an evil character would do that. At that point, I assume if you do that, you lose quite a few of your teammates.
Oh, probably. Yeah. I mean, I did that at one point. I don't remember how the teammates things panned out. I remember having basically nobody but Black Whirlwind at the end. I think that's where it landed.
Yeah. Well, you could have
And
the
Dead
evil
Sand.
demon, I suppose, if you did that.
Yeah.
If you did that whole route.
I mean, there's some stuff I remember that I'm just like that is burned in my brain, and other parts of this I was just like, this I've never seen before. It was that kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the game really, but yeah. One thing I remember, we'll get to it at the very end. Okay. Yeah.
Well, we're at the very end now, because now we just go confront
Master Li.
Master Emperor Li, and have your final fight there, and kind of choose. There's actually 3 choices here.
Yes.
You can
Good, evil, and
yeah. So the evil one is basically you seize the empire for yourself.
yeah.
The good one is you depose him and put Silk Fox on the throne.
Yeah.
And just support her as a good guy.
Well, you kill him.
Perhaps
you
as
kill him.
as her.
Don't.
Yeah. You kill him either good or evil, and then there's a third way, which is weird.
It's very weird. This is the thing I was talking about.
Basically,
so weird.
Yeah. He says, "Look, I did this thing, but we ended the long drought. Hundreds of thousands of people were dying, and screw the celestial bureaucracy. I can maintain the power of a god in the body of a man forever if you will allow it. You have to let me kill you to sort of seal off the spirit monk. Blah 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 blah. Whatever you have to die for this to happen, but that will allow Master Li to become immortal and run the empire forever. But he says, but if you do this, it will make statues to you. It will teach children forever that you are the hero who saved the empire and delivered it unto the glorious new utopia that I will create. And you don't expect many people to take him up on that. No, like, sure, go ahead and kill me and rule as a possibly benevolent god, but you can. Yeah. And if you do that, it's kind of a cool ending.
It's the one I remember. It's way more memorable than the other ones. Yeah.
He keeps his word. And there's like a little cinematic at the end of a master teaching students about a statue of you, the glorious hero that saved the empire. And one of them asks too many questions, and a big 20-foot tall siege golem bends over and scowls at him to get him back in line. And then they go like, oh yeah, you know what, the empire's great, blah blah. And the golem goes back to it being at ease, and then Master Li looks down on it and laughs maniacally.
Yeah, it's a wild ending. It's not even really a bad ending. It is a bad ending, but it's not like you would expect a bad ending. It's just very strange and really weird they put it in, but it's the ending I remember, even though it was something I went back later to just to check it out. I don't remember the actual bad ending.
Did I imagine that? Yeah, you kind of have to. No, have you heard anything about the sequel that they were kicking around?
No, nothing. No.
So the idea for the sequel was to follow up on that as the
canon ending.
And it was going to take place like 2,000 years in the future.
Oh, wow.
In like a cyberpunk setting.
Oh, my God.
Where the Jade Empire has been ruled by this emperor for 2,000 years and is now like getting into science fiction territory, and magic has started to fade from this world as sci-fi stuff takes over.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. That would be wild.
Wow, that's cool. What a swing. God, I wish they'd done that. That's so cool.
I know.
Uh-huh.
I know. I mean, it could have been terrible, but
yeah,
you wish they had tried. I mean, it's not like look, do I want to trade the Mass Effect and Dragon Age we got for a gamble on that actually being good? Probably not. But so that's it. You get like text epilogues for your characters.
Yeah, lame.
Which is a little You kind of want a cinematic. I don't know.
It's an old game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess even Dragon Age they were doing that, but it's not that old. I mean, shit, like Final Fantasy IV on the Super Nintendo, there was like ending cinematic scenes for people.
For sure. Yeah. Uh-huh.
The only thing I'll say for the text epilogues is there's actually a decent variety of them, depending on like the text changes based on what you did with the water dragon, and what you did with Master Li.
Better than nothing, that's for sure. You know, like this is what people wanted from Mass Effect. Just give me some closure on this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I got the closure. The ending cinematic is very short, one way or the other, which is that's a little bit downer. So, I mean, final verdict, like, this is not the best example of any of the stuff that BioWare is actually best at.
No.
And the stuff it's trying to do differently, I'd say it's about 50% successful with. But for all of that, not a bad game. I don't mind that I played it at all.
No.
It was a pretty fun time.
I enjoyed watching it. I mean, it was fun. It has the good BioWare plotting that you want. It has some good level design. It has some surprises that you don't see coming. I mean, I remembered that the Master Li was bad. I tell you how big a memory that was. I thought that was revealed like 5 hours into the game. That was I remembered it. No, it's
closer to the end.
5 hours before the end of the game. Yeah, or less.
I was. So I mean, I was sitting there thinking like, okay, the whole time I was like trying to figure out like, what's the big twist of Master Li here, because you revealed his backstory, the secret quote unquote backstory immediately, and it seems like it would make a lot more sense to just kill him in the opening attack, to kill the mentor character and push the chosen one out on their own. But you're keeping him alive for some reason, so he must have something to do, and I considered and dismissed the idea that he would be a bad guy because I didn't think that his characterization in the opening fit with being a bad guy, a secret bad guy all along. It fit better than I thought, actually, when it was finally revealed.
Yeah.
The surprise there at that point was not so much that he ended up being the ultimate bad guy. Once I realized, like, oh, okay, we're going to kill the Emperor already. Like, the game's not over. But the fact that he killed me was a surprise.
It's a great moment, yeah. Death's Hand, I don't know. It gets almost too literally Darth Vader by the end of it. I mean, there's a sequence where near the end where it is literally just Luke, the Emperor, and Vader, like up in the. I don't know, one of the many final confrontations with Master Li you have. They're having almost the exact same dialogue. Like, no, he belongs to me. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought Death's Hand was an effective enough sort of false front villain. You know,
I suppose. You never think he's going to be the villain of the game, though. I don't know. I thought at one point that he was going to be the villain of the game, but also that like Master Li was going to take over as Death's Hand. Like he was going to take over the title or whatever. I don't know.
Reveal, yeah, okay, yeah.
But we work what we got. So our final thing here now is we're with all these games trying to sketch out how you would adapt them to the screen.
Yes,
this one is the biggest challenge, I think, by far.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I mean, Baldur's Gate, I suppose, is
right.
But they just did a Dungeons & Dragons movie. It worked fine.
Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about this. It's tough. I think the way I would want to do this is one movie.
Okay. Well, yeah. So the hardest parts on this are not the sort of nitty gritty structural stuff. It's the big threshold questions are the hardest to answer for me. Because here's one for starters: is this a live action movie or is this a cartoon?
Well, a cartoon is obviously much easier, but I think to get any juice out of this at all, you want to live action it. You know.
Well, that's okay. So here's the pros and cons, as I see them, are one. The one way to sort of sell this is you want this to be a kung fu movie, right? Like it should be a wuxia. How do you say?
Yeah,
wuxia.
Definitely a wuxia. More of that than a kung fu proper. I want magic and flying around and dragons flying out of swords and shit.
Yeah, it's Crouching Tiger stuff.
Yeah.
And if you get those big fights right, then that'll carry even a non-dorky audience through a lot of this stuff.
Oh, that's the main
fights
thing.
are good. That's the huge selling point. Conversely, the story here involves a lot of fist fighting with ghosts. Yeah. Which is a thing that I just don't think plays in live action very well. I think in cartoon form, it would be a lot easier to swallow. That. I mean, we're going to tone that down, I think, the amount of ghost stuff in this to the degree possible.
Yeah. I think pretty possible, honestly. I think.
Yeah.
I think you probably take out all the fist fights with ghosts. Maybe there's a scene with ghosts, you know?
I think what you don't have the ghosts manifesting as floating spirits the way they do here. I think you have them like possessing physical objects, possessing
or
trees
maybe corpses
or animals or corpses. Yeah. But as he says, you can't kill. I mean, you could destroy the corpse, but I don't know. Yeah, but I think that it's more they possess things that you can have physical fights with than that they're actually free-floating amorphous vapors or whatever Ray Stantz calls them. And the other thing that I think animation would really help with is the whole wildflower scenario, the transforming into the giant demon from the little girl thing.
That's a cool thing. I think you probably cut it out of the movie, though. I'm afraid.
You hate to lose that.
I'm afraid. I think here's my thing. I think you got to streamline the shit out of this. It's already a pretty streamlined game.
Yeah.
I think you focus on the one main plot, which is that the spirit monk is a sort of a cat's paw for a long con revenge scheme by Master Li. He's following the course set for him up until the end when he figures it out and turns the tables. You cut almost all of the other stuff. Tien's Landing probably gone. Well, maybe not entirely. Like maybe you have like one side adventure where you're fighting cannibals or pirates or something like that. on the road.
I think you
to
do the dam
City.
thing.
Yeah,
has some world building scale to it. I think you
and that's more evidence of like how the celestial bureaucracy is out of sort and needs to be fixed. You can do stuff like that. It is a trek, a journey to the Imperial City, which you hit at like I don't know, an hour and 20 minutes into the film, and then you have your third act there. You don't do the fighting pit. You don't do the Scholar's Garden. Maybe you do the Scholar's Garden, but that's fast enough.
God, I mean, you want to include the Cleese thing in there somehow.
You can spend 8 minutes on that maybe, and then you can get Mirabelle, which will be important at the end.
We have to. Somebody has to bring Mirabelle into the final act. Kang the Mad has to use it.
It's the coup de grace, And you keep Kang the Mad. He's got the flying ship. You keep probably Dawnstar and the princess, and I don't know, one other guy maybe.
Let's figure this out. Yeah, okay. Let's figure out which characters do we actually need for this story? I think you need Sagacious Zoo, Silk Fox.
I don't think you even need Sagacious Zoo. I like Dawnstar. Silk Fox
and backstory on the Lotus Assassins and somebody to die.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I'm afraid, you probably lose Black Whirlwind, even though he's the most fun, but he just, I don't know. Or maybe you keep him.
You don't need Sky.
No, Sky gone. First thing, day 1, 8 a.m. Sky's out.
Wildflower is one of the most unique things here and most interesting, but
no really room for her. In this 2 hour, 20-minute version of Jade Empire, I'm great.
Okay, I would advocate for at least 2 films. I think there's a way to do it in 2 and a way to do it in 3, by my estimation. I think 1 is going to be overstuffed and not...
Cut everything.
Not hitting things.
You cut it all.
So the way to do it, and I think the one thing that I think you have to do, you need to end a movie on the protagonist's death.
Okay.
Because that's an incredible cliffhanger. If you're dragging it out into three movies, I think you just do one that basically goes through Tian's Landing and climaxes with killing Gao the Greater, and heading off to the Imperial City, and then second movie is Imperial City, Lotus Assassin Fortress, protagonist dies, and then the third movie is just the start. But I think we can combine all that into one movie by skipping over most of Tian's Landing, but the third movie sort of starts with the protagonist dead, and the first act kind of sort of Matrix Revolutions type thing, where it's really focusing on the companions working. I think the thing is in a video game,
cram in there, or not cram in, a lot to build out in a third movie. There's 2 hours left in the game after the protagonist dies.
Yeah, but that 2 hours is like all plot,
and action, I guess.
And action. So,
but it's all falling action. It's all like resolution. It's lumpy as a structure. That's all.
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. Now, but I think that in a video game thing, like your player character has to play through everything.
Yeah.
So it's about him sort of like activating those fountains or whatever the hell in the ghost realm.
Yeah, you don't want to do that himself. In the movie. You don't want to.
No, in the movie, I think it's the companions are doing the work. Dawnstar has determined that there's a way, if we go to this temple, we can reincarnate him, and they have to jump through hoops. They have to get there. They have to do things kind of on their own for the first act or half of the movie. Here's another question, though. Going back to a threshold question.
Yeah.
Do we need the player character in this at all? Is the main character just Dawnstar? Because they weirdly have sort of the same backstory.
You could just do it with Dawnstar. That's true. You could just make Dawnstar the main character if you wanted. I don't know. That's interesting.
But can you kill her and bring her back like this, or does we need her to do the bring her back part?
Well, I mean, Dawnstar then has to fill all the sort of leadership roles that the player character does, which she fundamentally does not in the game. So it is a massive change to her character to make her both those roles.
That's true.
Which is probably okay. I mean, as it stands, she's sort of the demure romantic interest. You have a choice between two kinds of women that you want to romance in the game, basically, and she's one of them. This is she's what she's. I guess she's the Mary Stuart Masterson in as opposed to the Leah Thompson in what is that movie? It's John Hughes film. John Hughes film. Some kind of is it Some Kind of Wonderful?
Some Kind of Wonderful. That's the movie?
Eric Stoltz.
All right, I haven't seen it.
Okay, it doesn't matter. She's the the ugly duckling that ends up being she's Ducky. She's Ducky.
Yeah.
To put it in
different. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so. I don't know that you need that the like we were saying, the romance in this it's not its strongest feature or function or narrative idea. So, but I don't know. I figure you probably want that romantic triangle at the center of Silk Fox, Dawnstar, and player character. That's just sort of an immediate rooting interest kind of thing. It's Jacob or Robert Pattinson, whatever he was. It's just
Edward, I believe.
Edward, yes. It's an engine.
Yeah, Team Dawnstar, or whatever.
It's a dramatic engine especially if you're doing 3 films. Yeah.
Well, but I think my ideal would actually be 2, because I think you can get to the same place faster. Yeah, you don't get a lot of dyads in movies. They're just like 2-parters. But unless it's the final chapter of a series that Harry Potter or Twilight or whatever, it's always part 1, part 2 for the final one. But this one, I think if we can get through 2 rivers pretty quickly,
you can get out of 2 rivers in 20 minutes if you want.
Maybe it's even easier if it's just Dawnstar and sort of gets kidnapped by Gao the Lesser, who he very
Nathan
quickly
Fillion,
introduced as a rival student, and then rescued by Sagacious Zoo. But as Gao the Lesser is dying, he feels like, but no, wait, I did it 35 minutes ago. The attack's already done, and it's everything's in ruins there. Mm-hmm. We go to Tien's Landing. I think we do the dam thing there. We want to have a conversation with Gao the Greater because we have an established thing there. Now,
it's tough because you take Tien's Landing. Like, the most active plot is the dam. The one that most builds out the world and is kind of the most exciting is the one with the cannibals and the fox. And then the one that moves the story forward is the pirates. So you're kind of like,
well, I think
you got to combine all 3 somehow. Mm-hmm.
You put the pirate base at the dam that he's collecting. He's doing all that himself. He's using his slaves there, and that's where you have that confrontation. We forget about Ho. I think you include Black Whirlwind. Have Black Whirlwind be just like captured by the slavers there. He was like hired by Gao the Greater to be a mercenary for him, but he killed too many of his own men, so now he's locked up there, and you free him.
Yeah, he's like tied up, and they're throwing things at him, and he's yelling, and you let him out.
Yeah, you let him out, and that's part of how you get there. And I'd say throw Sky in there too. Let Sky do his thing.
Dead, gone. Forget
Sky. I want another body to kill in the second movie. So,
well, I guess okay, as long as he dies.
But I don't. I don't know. Maybe that's too many people. But
Mad Kang. Kang. I need Mad Kang.
Yeah.
Henpecked Ho. I'm sorry. No time. I don't know.
Wildflower. I guess we don't have time. I'm sorry.
No. She's great. Interesting, but yeah, she's definitely the one that informs the plot the least. It is cool. It's also weird. I figure if you have that character, you kind of have to devote more time to exploring it.
Weird.
Like, more than the game does, almost. And
she is a weird character, and also I think potentially really upsetting in live action.
Maybe.
Do you see this if it's a really like a girl that age? If we don't age her up a little bit or anything, and you get into her backstory that she's a dead girl that was drowned,
right? Yeah.
By this dam incident.
Well, you can do I don't know. If you wanted to do the Wildflower version, it's just like it's a girl and her spirit companion, kind of. It's cute. It's it's like a protecting spirit or something like that. And they're sort of symbiotic in a way. It's like Venom, but nice. I think there's a way to do it. I think that is not upsetting. That is it's sort of like an imaginary friend that protects her kind of deal. And not so much a Chinese god that drives her around benevolently.
Yes. But okay, I think the streamlined version.
I'm afraid she's gotta go. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we can collect Black Whirlwind and Kang and potentially Sky in the course of one adventure there.
Yes.
And Tian's Landing.
Well, I with 3 movies, I'm more open to having a bigger team because building a team and having a leadership and having everyone chip in at the end is certainly an effective part of the story. So, yeah.
Well, I think if we're too streamlined, it makes it hard to do the scale of the big dirge siege at the end if there's only 3 or 4 people. Like,
I don't know.
When you get to 5 or 6, it's like there's more things
I think if it's really streamlined is that you can do that. You just treat it as a wuxia film. Make it simpler. Yes, there's a big combat at the end, and it's 2 sides against 1. We're following fewer characters, though. It's a big fight at the fortress, as many films end with. And if there's 6 characters there that we're following around, you'd still do some stuff. You can still have a pretty decent-sized action scene.
Yeah, but I think
especially if there's flying ships and golems.
Such a difference between 6 and 3 is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's 7 samurai, man. Yeah. Like it's 7-minute abs. You gotta...
Yeah, you're right. 6 is a good number, and Sky can die there. That's fine with me. Okay.
Yeah, Sky. Okay, well, so now we're getting to we're jumping ahead slightly, but I think if we do that the way we get two rivers out of the way in 20-30 minutes, spend half an hour doing an adventure in Tian's Landing. We're at the Imperial City halfway through the movie, and you just basically go straight to the fortress there, and Sagacious Zoo takes the loss, but that's not even the climax of the movie because we still have to go to the palace because you definitely have to end on the protagonist being killed, right? That's the big cliffhanger.
There's so little that happens after it.
Well, okay, so we have to build out in the second movie as a little bit of an adventure for them to reincarnate him. Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Is there a way to do it where we reincarnate the main character and where we don't reincarnate the main character? I mean, where we go through all this trouble and it accomplishes something, but the main character doesn't get to return to his old body and live. Like, can we maybe his
maybe that's a way for Dan Starr.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how Don Starr takes a leadership. That is like To Live and Die in L.A. kind of ending. That's kind of cool.
I think it's kind of cool, man. More of a two-hander from the start. I think that. I guess To Live and Die in L.A. is kind of that way, but I maybe like his sacrifice is somehow that he infuses his spirit. He becomes Death's Hand. He frees that guy from there.
Hey, that's kind of cool.
And has to sacrifice and ultimately sacrifice it, and
or what if he becomes
the first act can't be
an
just
antagonist? What if he becomes the antagonist that Don Starr has to battle at the end before Master Lee? Yes, no one would expect it. Here's the thing: I do think that you have to fuck with this story to adapt it. I think that to do a proper Jade Empire, to really do justice to everything that's going on in it, would be a lumpy and difficult experience as a filmed entertainment. I say that as somebody who enjoyed watching someone play it on YouTube, but still, I think to change it fundamentally is the best way to present it as a film. And
certainly, if you're not going to do it as a series,
yeah, and no one's going to, obviously, no one's going to make this movie at all. So no point in pointing out that a series isn't feasible. But
I mean, who knows? They make movies out of the strangest things. Like,
it would be very weird if they made a Jade Empire movie in 2023 or beyond. It would be very weird.
No, if it happened, it would only be
the last Bioware I would expect them to do.
It would have to be because they had done a Mass Effect series that was a huge crossover hit somehow, and had also
and then also a Dragon Age.
Yeah, and we're reaching for the other one.
Yeah, what's the hottest new Bioware? We don't have one. Wow, there's always Jade Empire, I guess.
But I mean, I don't know. They made Great Wall. Is this like that? Like worse of an idea than that? Like it's the same scale.
It's a better idea. Yeah. I mean, there's always room for sort of wuxia action adventure. I mean, that's fun. We're getting very close to our Big Trouble in Little China episode. I mean, it's just it's a delightful subgenre, and I'm very excited to get into that one. But yeah,
and this is technically existing IP, which is what you have to get anything made today. So.
You're right.
I don't know. I mean, but it's IP with no imprint whatsoever. So. Okay, so I guess I don't know if we can pull off making him the villain, but I think we can pull off.
Well, he's not the villain. He's just an antagonistic force, and he's like, you have freed me, Dawn Star. I mean, it would be a surprise for people.
We already had her mentor turning evil on her. Like we've already played that card.
But he's not evil. He is enslaved. He is.
They have to free him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, we can play around with that a little bit, but
I think it depends how it goes. Yeah, we'll see.
I think in the fight at Dirge, this is where we get a kill off Sky. I think we have Kang the Mad explode himself, destroying blowing up a bridge and taking down one of the big siege engines.
Sure.
Yeah. And that gives us enough of a body count to satisfy my bloodlust, I think. If we get Zoo and Sky and Kang all going down, Black Whirlwind can even survive. I mean, although you can also give Black Whirlwind a death anytime. Mowing.
I think he's the Polly Walnuts. I think he makes it.
Yeah, that's weirdly exactly the comparison I was just reaching for. Okay, and then so that's, I guess, the one thing is, does it screw up if we have Dawnstar as the protagonist? Does it screw up the final confrontation with Master Li? But no, it's even stronger because
you find out you find out it's her father, and I think we're just fine then.
But are we doubling up sort of Silk Fox having to rebel against her father in the prior movie in sort of almost the exact same fashion, the same throne room? Is that an issue?
I mean, maybe, but maybe that's how you do it, and maybe that duality kind of is a plot point. That it's got something for them to talk about in the final scene.
And then realizing that they're actually
that's
cousins.
Not uninteresting, and it does make sense that she would be his daughter. So, you know, I'm okay with it. Yeah, I mean, like maybe the his plan worked perfectly with the player character, and the thing he didn't count on was his own daughter, because he was playing this role so completely.
Yeah, and maybe he had the player character because he didn't want to use his own daughter for this purpose. That was the extent of his affection. But he didn't count on love.
He didn't count on love.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it works. I mean, it could be awful, of course.
I mean, I could see a version of this working. Like, it could be a successful movie. A lot of the stuff we've talked about, it could work. I mean, it's not something I would expect to see, as we've been saying, but like, I mean, kung fu magic and monsters and betrayals and intrigue. Of course, this stuff could be interesting. Of course it could work. I think you'd have to really fundamentally change it from what it is now, but I don't think anyone would mind if you did that either.
Yeah, I think you have to tone down the ghost stuff. I don't think you can get as deep into the celestial bureaucracy stuff, at least not in live action. Again, in animation, I think you could pull off maybe just visiting other realms as casually as they do a little easier. You could pull off things like Wildflower a little easier, but
it is something that defines the game a lot.
Yeah.
It is a big part of the world of it. So I don't know. I would want it present, and it's present in wuxia as well. I mean, it's a hallmark of the genre. So,
I mean, I'm picturing this, in an animation style like Dragon Prince, and I think that could look very cool.
I was thinking Mononoke, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's also pretty good too. But can you do a satisfying kung fu action in cartoon form? I don't know. Like, maybe we should have June in here. I know he's a fan of Kung Fu Panda. I think they kind of might say they'd pull it off.
Kung Fu Panda is a good movie, I'll tell you. Yeah. It's a pretty good one.
It's a whole series, trilogy now, right?
Yeah, at least.
But I think one of the things is whether this is good or bad is kind of independent of what we can do here, because we focus on structure and trying to figure out how you do that, because that's what we can do from the sitting. But really, what would kind of live or die on production design, set design, action choreography, like that's kind of stuff that we just like. Well, if there's a dial we could turn to make that stuff turn from bad to good, we would. But the stuff we could try to figure out as we're interested in approaching these games as from a narrative standpoint mostly, and as there's sort of unique narrative mediums that they are, and then trying to match them into an existing medium.
Right, and I mean, clearly, like we're only really talking about this because it's part of how we're going through these Bioware games, and our belief that Mass Effect and Dragon Age and maybe the KOTORs are fundamentally great for adaptation. This just happens to be part of the same series, so we're doing this as a thought experiment. But
right.
I don't know. This is not a game I would really be like, we really need a Jade Empire movie.
No.
We really need a franchise of Jade Empires. It's a neat curio, but it's a solid game to play if you can. But
not on your phone.
I'm fine with this kind of staying in the aughts. Personally, it's fine. It's a good game, but there's a lot of games.
There are, and they're more refined versions of this stuff as you go forward in time. If they ever want to revisit the thing 2,000 years later, that's the thing. You can pick that up anytime and do that, I suppose. And I would be interested in it. But
that's a really cool idea, I must say. Yeah.
But even if whenever they get around to announcing a Mass Effect movie or whatever, I'll be very excited about that. But even this, if they were going to do Jade Empire, it would be highly dependent on the trailer to sell me on it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this type of thing can work, has worked, and will work. But the specifics. I wonder almost if the specifics of doing Jade Empire are more of a limitation than anything. You could just take aspects of this story and of this world, put those in a streamlined plot that doesn't involve so many characters and locations, and have something that functions extremely well on its own.
Is it even that many locations? That's one of my kind of gripes with it as a game. But
yeah,
we've hashed
fair
that
enough.
out. It is a streamlined experience compared relative to the Mass Effects and Dragon Ages of it all. But now, next up is the first Mass Effect. Which I gotta tell you, man, I got the legacy pack or whatever, the remastered edition. I haven't played that first Mass Effect in 12 years, probably. I'm looking forward to that one.
Oh, it's a joy, man. It is an absolute joy. These games, the first one, it's a well, you haven't seen the legacy edition. They actually ironed out some of the difficulties.
Yeah, I remember it being the clunkiest mechanically, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also a little easier to play now.
Yeah. When a lot of my just, quintessential Mass Effect memories come from that game. Like that.
Well, when it comes to plotting, BioWare it might be the best BioWare game when it comes to one single game's individual narrative. It's in contention for the best. Although, I don't know. Well, it's a conversation to have next time.
Yeah. And you know what? At the very end of this whole series, if we survive it, maybe we could do rankings of different, best cast, best plot, best villain.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Okay, pencil that in for 2028.
Yeah, and pencil Jade Empire in at the bottom of pretty much all of those lists. Unfortunately,
I'm afraid so.
But it's not bad.
It's not.
All right, we're repeating ourselves.
I don't know if we do that biomechanical one, Anthem, that might be worse.
Oh, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're doing single-player RPGs. We're not doing whatever shooter, multiplayer, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. That's Jade Empire.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Mass Effect next time. That's it.
See you then.